My wife made fun of me in front of her friends. It was really hurtful and left me feeling angry and frustrated. I felt like I had reached my limit and needed to let off some steam. I needed to vent the anger that had been building up inside me. What do people actually want? I put my heart and soul into being the best husband I can be for Alice, but all I receive in return is disrespect, especially from her and her circle of friends. Let me give you a little backstory about Alice and me. We met during our college days at a lively party thrown by there was an instant connection with her friends, and we exchanged numbers that night. I took her out on our first date, and here we are, married for about a year. I'm 31, and Alice is 30. I work as a software engineer at a prominent tech company, which fortunately means I am quite well. Despite my efforts to provide for us and create a comfortable life, I've noticed a disturbing pattern. My wife and her friends have developed the habit of mocking me, whether I'm present or not. What's worse is that Alice never stands up for me in these situations. She doesn't seem to appreciate all that I do for her. Despite all that I do for her, she seems to take it all for granted. It's as if she's become accustomed to me handling everything from paying bills to taking care of household matters. The problem isn't just that she can't hold down a job, it's her whole approach to work and life. Even back when we were dating in college, Alice displayed signs of laziness and she lacks commitment. She's always jumped from one job to another, never staying in one place for more than a month or two. This cycle has repeated itself over the years, and it's incredibly frustrating to witness. She graduated from college, but most of her projects were done by me out of fear that she wouldn't put in the effort herself. What's even more concerning is Alice's tendency to avoid responsibility and shift blame onto others. She never takes ownership of her actions or lack thereof. Instead, she blames professors, lecturers, and co-workers. She always finds a way to avoid responsibility. It's never her fault. She blames her bosses, her colleagues, her professors, even her own laziness. She can't stay at a job for more than a couple of months. She always has an excuse. It's always someone else's fault. She's got a pretty negative outlook on life. It seems like she expects everything to be handed to her without putting in the effort or taking responsibility for her own success or failures. Her friends have also really messed with her head and keep feeding her outdated ideas about what men and women should do. They've convinced her that I should be the one paying all the bills while she just sits at home looking pretty. It's ridiculous, especially since we don't have any kids to take care of. I've tried to explain to her that it doesn't make sense for her to stay home all day doing nothing, but she keeps pushing for it and arguing about it. It's absurd because these friends of hers are single and pay their bills themselves. They constantly complain and moan about how nobody wants them. But who would want a person that thinks like that? Before she quit her last job, she was only there for 3 months. Alice's friends would always tease me about not being man enough to let her stay at home. They say I'm selfish and greedy and that she makes good money, so I should let Alice stay home. I've told Alice time and again that I don't like her friends and don't want her to be like that. But she just brushes it off and says I'm insecure because I don't have many friends myself. But the thing is, I would rather not have any friends than be friends with the kind of people Alice is. Alice's friends also have this crazy idea that a guy should fight for a cheating partner to prove his love. They say that if a man doesn't fight for his partner after she cheats, then he never really loved her. I've tried telling Alice that, but she won't listen. When I ask her friends about the double standard of loyalty between men and women, and if that means a woman should fight for a cheating man, they accuse me of being old-fashioned. It's not just outdated, it's also sexist. When I challenge their notions, they say it's not the same for women and men. If men and women aren't equal, they'll say I'm sexist. Alice's decision to stay home on her friend's advice has become a real headache. She's supposed to handle the household chores, cleaning, cooking, and doing the dishes, but I end up doing it. It's really frustrating to come back from a long day at work to a messy house, especially when Alice could easily help but chooses not to, which just makes things worse. She often invites her friends over, and they leave the place even messier without lifting a finger to clean up. When I bring this up with Alice, she just brushes it off, claiming that I'm too demanding and don't understand the challenges of being a stay-at-home parent. At the moment, I'm not sure what to do. Alice is a stay-at-home wife, so it's a constant battle to get her to see the importance of contributing to the household, especially when she's not bringing in any income. What's even more infuriating is her friends' influence on her attitude towards accountability. They've convinced her that she doesn't need to be answerable to anyone, not even me. For example, Alice packed up and left for a weekend getaway with her friends without informing me. They say that sharing her location or letting me know about her plans is controlling and sexist. They've painted me as an abusive partner just because I expect basic communication and honesty in our relationship. For me, it's not about control, it's about safety and trust. If Alice doesn't share her whereabouts, how can I ensure her safety? If something goes wrong, it's common sense and respect for each other's well-being. But her friends have turned this into an issue of control and oppression. Communication and honesty should be the foundation of any healthy relationship, but it seems like these values have been lost on Alice and her friends for a long time. I put up with all of this because I loved my wife. She had her flaws. She was easily influenced by her friends. She could be lazy. There were times when she was still the woman I married, and I was happy to help out. I knew everyone has their struggles, and I was willing to support her through it all, but after being filled with anger and frustration for so long, it wasn't just one thing that pushed me over the edge. It was a whole pile of stuff that kept adding up. I kept putting up with it until I couldn't take it anymore. Looking back, I realize I should have stood my ground from the start, but I let it slide because I didn't want to rock the boat and ruin Alice's relationship with her friends. They were relentless in their teasing, targeting every part of my life. They called me a nerd or a weirdo and trashed my hobbies, as if they were the most ridiculous. I also found it awkward when their favorite target, especially in big groups or gatherings, laughed at my every stumble, joked about my lack of social skills, and enjoyed my discomfort. What hurt the most was seeing Alice join in or laugh along. She knew how much their teasing bothered me, but she'd just ignore it or even add to it. It felt like a slap in the face. She was more concerned with fitting in with her friends than with how I felt. The mockery didn't stop at my hobbies or social skills. They also teased me about my relationship with Alice, calling me simp, as if it were the worst thing they could say. They used it to make me feel bad, and they were always rude, derogatory, and disdainful. They'd say I was submissive and weak and that I'd do anything. Alice didn't question it, which made it clear they thought less of me for it. Alice would laugh along with them, which reinforced their hurtful comments instead of standing up for me. It hurt to see her join in, because it was like she agreed with their views. One particularly painful incident happened at one of her friends' birthday parties. It was a large gathering, and after it ended, I wanted us to leave, but Alice said we should stay because no one else was leaving yet. Then they started openly mocking me for being a S instead of shutting it down. Alice joined in the mockery. When I had accommodated her wishes or put her needs first, she was openly airing our private moments for everyone's entertainment. That laughter echoed in my ears. Each jab and sneer added fuel to the fire of my frustration. But it didn't stop there. They also made fun of my intelligence, as if being smart was a bad thing. They mocked my job in the tech industry, which I was proud of. No matter how good I was at my job, they found something to ridicule. They even made fun of my appearance. They even turned my paying job into something negative, stereotyping tech professionals as reclusive control freaks. Despite staying fit, hitting the gym regularly, and taking care of myself, they still found ways to turn it into a joke. They mocked my blonde hair, comparing me to Kendall in a way that was downright insulting. My dedication to fitness was twisted. They made it something to laugh at, saying that tech people shouldn't care about their health. It didn't make sense. One thing that really annoyed me was when they messed with the ownership of our home. This house was a gift from my mom after we got married, and it was in my name because she was worried about Alice at first. Alice didn't mind at first, but after talking with her friends, they made her think that everything I owned automatically became hers as my partner, while everything she owned remained hers. They told her she deserved total ownership. This idea caused unnecessary drama and pressure, pushing Alice to demand full ownership despite my suggestion of joint ownership. Alice and her friends kept pushing their unrealistic demands when I refused to budge. They finally told Alice to accept the compromise, but the damage was done. Their Ming strained our relationship to the point where I was no longer willing to add Alice's name to the deed. The breaking point came yesterday, Friday night, which turned into a nightmare. Alice insisted I join her and her friends for drinks and dinner. I'm not a fan of Alice's friends, and the thought of spending. I wasn't looking forward to the evening, but Alice kept pushing, saying I needed to socialize more. Reluctantly, I agreed. Alice's friends suggested we all go to a restaurant before heading to a bar. Addis said she was hungry too, so we all agreed. We ended up at a fancy restaurant, which was a bit pricey, but the restaurant wasn't too expensive. But I noticed Alice's friends ordering some pretty pricey dishes, which seemed a bit out of character for them given their modest incomes. I just shrugged it off, thinking maybe someone else in the group had said they'd fit the bill. Alice ordered something pretty pricey too, but I didn't mind covering it. I wanted her to enjoy herself. They were really enjoying themselves during dinner. I didn't mind that they were mocking and gossiping about me right in front of my face. I chose to ignore them, focusing on my food and trying not to let their negativity ruin the meal. After we finished eating, the waiter asked if we were getting separate checks. I was really surprised when Alice's friends said that I was paying for everyone. That was the last straw for me. I asked them why they thought I would pay when I hadn't agreed to it. They said I had a good salary. I didn't feel like I should have to pay for everyone's meal just because I earned well. I'd been mocked and disrespected all night, and I wasn't going to pay for that. Things got worse when Alice and her friends signed the bill and insisted that I should pay. I refused, and I told them I wouldn't pay for a meal for people who they'd spent the evening belittling me, so I stood my ground and demanded separate checks. I paid only for Alice and myself. I left a hefty tip for the waiter because they hadn't deserved the hassle caused by Alice's friends. As I was about to leave, I gave Alice an ultimatum. Either she left with me or it was over. She wanted to stay, but one look at my face and she knew. I was really annoyed, but she came with me when we got home. Alice was really angry, calling me stingy and selfish for not paying despite having the means. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, it was about principle, but she said her friends were just joking. She also said I was too insecure to handle it. I just ignored her and went to bed, not knowing what else to say. She had joined her friends in humiliating me, and was now mad that I didn't want to. I tried to make amends, but the next morning things were still frosty. She didn't even say good morning and carried on ignoring me. I decided not to go out of my way to make breakfast like I usually did on weekends. We ignored each other for hours until she finally approached me. She laid down the law. If I wanted her to stop ignoring me, I had to cover her friend's extravagant dinner bill. She said they were still fuming. Over what they saw as my embarrassing behavior and selfishness, I was taken aback. After everything that had transpired, she wanted me to pay money to appease her friends' wounded egos. I didn't beat around the bush with my response. I flatly refused, telling her to forget it. She then threatened to withdraw money from our joint account to settle the bill. I warned her sternly that she couldn't touch our shared funds. She wanted to access our shared funds without my consent. I warned her that she'd have to find a way to replace the money. My refusal set her off again, and she went right back to giving me the cold shoulder. So, that is my dilemma. I'm currently writing this from the kitchen, feeling angry and disrespected. I feel like an idiot. Any advice on how to navigate this whole mess would be appreciated. Thanks for listening. Update: it's been about 5 hours since I posted about my anger, and I'm really grateful for all your support and advice. I didn't expect this post to get so many responses. Your comments and messages have really resonated with me. Many of you pointed out something I hadn't fully realized before. My wife's actions and behaviors have shown a lack of love and respect towards me. It's been really helpful to see so many people echoing the same sentiments. I've been feeling your validation of my anger, and it's been really reassuring to realize that I'm not insecure and definitely not at fault. Some of you mentioned that I should have ended things long ago, and looking back, I can see that staying in this relationship was a mistake. Alice's association with toxic friends and her disregard for my feelings are clear red flags that I should have seen earlier. It's a tough realization, but I appreciate the honesty in your comments. I've also received some creative suggestions. on how to handle this situation. Many of you advised me to seek legal advice, so I'm definitely going to consult a lawyer to understand my options moving forward. It's only been about 5 hours since my last update, so I don't have much to report. Alice is still distant and getting ready to go out without telling me where. Once she leaves, I plan to secure our joint account to prevent any further misuse of funds. I'm sure she's going out with those friends of hers. I'm not going to let her spend my money on people I don't know. I'm going to take control of my life again. I've realized that this relationship has reached its breaking point and I'm definitely getting a divorce. I won't let Alice off easily though, because this situation has affected me a lot. I'll try and keep you all updated as things progress. Thanks again for the support and advice. I truly appreciate it. Hi everyone. I just wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on since my last post. As you probably know, there was an incident with the joint account. Well, Alice was pretty mad when she found out I'd withdrawn all the money she'd promised to cover her friend's expenses for the evening. This led to a pretty heated argument where she accused me of being. I said it was unfair and controlling. I suggested she get a job if she didn't want me controlling her. I told her we'd only use a joint account for bills. She threatened to leave if I didn't transfer the money back immediately. I stood my ground, ignored her, and went to my office. I locked myself in. She didn't expect me to stand my ground and ignore her. Since then, I've been playing harmless pranks. For example, I've been placing realistic-looking fake bugs around the house, knowing she's terrified of them. Her reactions have been hilarious. When she confronted me about it, I turned the tables by calling her insecure for not being able to take a joke and claiming I was just playing around. Another prank I've been doing is setting multiple alarms in the morning. Alice tends to sleep in while I have to wake up early for work, although I used to avoid alarms. I've started using them to make sure I don't disturb her sleep. She's been complaining because she's a light sleeper, and it's been driving her crazy, but I've insisted that they're necessary for my job. I've also played mind games with her and made her doubt her own sanity. I've shifted things around subtly in our house. When Alice notices and asks me about it, I act like I have no idea. Sometimes I'll even act confused and question her memory, making her wonder if she's losing it. But that's just the beginning. I've been orchestrating conversations and plans with Alice, only to deny ever having those discussions later on. It's like a slight on steroids. This constant manipulation makes Alice second-guess herself, wondering if she can trust her own mind or if she's just imagining things. Last night was the icing on the cake. Alice actually said she felt like she might have dementia. I had to fight the urge to laugh. I've made her doubt her mental health, and it's twisted and satisfying. I know it's cruel, but she deserves it. While I've been playing mind games with Alice, I've also been planning for our separation. It's not just about divorcing her. I want to ensure she's completely alone. Once I'm out of the picture, I've already reached out to my lawyer and started working on divorce papers. The thing is, I haven't told Alice any of this. She thinks we're just going through a rough patch, oblivious to the fact that I'm planning to leave her for good. It might seem harsh, but I believe it's necessary for both of us to move on separately. One of the biggest challenges I'm facing is the house. Legally, the house is mine. But it's also listed as Alice's main address, so I can't just ask her to leave without going through a long eviction process. I don't want to be stuck living with her for another 6 months or more. That's why I'm thinking about selling the house without her knowing. It might seem extreme, but it's the best way to make sure we're completely separate. If I do that, I'd have to move back in with my mom. I'm going to stay there temporarily until I either get an apartment or buy another house. I think it's a pretty practical plan. I know these decisions might seem cold, but I've thought them through carefully. My priority is to move on from this toxic situation and build a better future for myself, even if it means making tough choices along the way. I've been meaning to keep you all posted on my situation, so here's the latest. Alice is finally out of my house. I should have done this ages ago, but I finally took the step and kicked her out. How did I do it? Well, I decided that if I was going to kick her out, I needed to do it with one last big statement. I swapped out her shampoo and conditioner with a hair removal product, and you can probably guess what happened next. She used it. She realized a few times before what was happening, which surprised me because the hair remover has a distinct smell and reaction. She ended up with a really bad hair coat with chunks of her hair falling out. She was so scared that she had a lipa that she insisted on going to the hospital to get tested. I had to hold back my laughter every time I saw her hair for about a week. She didn't even leave the house because she was really embarrassed about the haircut. So she started hinting that she wanted her friends to visit her. Before this, her friends used to come over a lot and they would mess up the house, but they never cleaned up after themselves. After the incident at the restaurant where I refused to pay for them, her friends stopped coming over. I knew they would only laugh at me if they came over, so I refused to let them. Instead, I suggested that she visit them. At first, she was reluctant to go because of her haircut, but I suggested she could easily cover it with a hoodie or something and go see them. She thought it was a good idea and got ready to leave right away. Her friends came to pick her up, so I took the opportunity to pack up her belongings and put them outside on the porch. I also packed a bag for myself and went to stay with my mom to avoid dealing with her screaming at me. When she came back and found her things outside, she had a tantrum. It was my way of saying that I've had enough and I'm moving on without her drama. After spending some time at my mom's house, I realized that Alice wasn't the only one who deserved consequences. Her toxic friends had played a significant role in influencing her behavior. Most of them were either unfaithful in their relationships or were with their partners for all the wrong reasons. When I looked at Alice's phone and saw their group chat, I found it wasn't just mockery. There was a treasure trove of secrets and backstabbing. I took screenshots, lots of them. I shared them on social media, Instagram and Facebook, where I found their partners' profiles for those with private Instagram accounts. I also reached out to their close friends on either Instagram or Facebook and sent them the damning screenshots. Was it harsh, cruel, and unnecessary? I know it was unnecessary, but did they deserve it? What shocked me even more was how they would talk behind each other's backs in private messages despite claiming to be best friends. They were ruthless while they came to gossip about one another. I collected evidence of this too, sending it back to them so they could see the toxicity within their own circle. But my actions didn't stop there. I sent her a final message to end things definitively. I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate her toxic behavior anymore, and demanded a divorce. I also informed her that her belongings were waiting for her on the porch. I knew the chaos that would follow, especially from Alice, so I turned off my phone and went to bed early the next morning. My mom filled me in on the commotion that went down. Alice had shown up at my mom's house and caused the neighbors had to call the police because of the disturbance. I couldn't believe I slept through all of that. When I asked my mom why she didn't wake me up, she said she knew I wanted to steer clear of Alice, which I appreciated, but I still felt a bit anxious. I was just glad that Alice's meltdown didn't turn violent. I guess I was utterly drained from everything that had transpired when I finally did turn on my phone to check it. I got loads of messages from Alice. She was apologizing, insulting me, and threatening me. It was obvious she was losing it, so I decided not to reply. I spent the day at my mom's to avoid any arguments at home. I figured she might have been waiting for me to turn up. 2 days later, I went back to my house and changed the locks. Alice's breakdown was pretty obvious. Some of her stuff that she didn't take was scattered on the porch. The windscreen of her car, which I had bought but was in my name, was smashed. I didn't even bother trying to make her pay for it. I took care of it myself, changed the locks and retreated back to Manon's while still ignoring all her attempts to reach me. I'd like to thank you all for your support and for everything you've done for me. It's been a wild ride, to say the least. I've made some changes regarding Alice. I'm still not responding to her, but my lawyer advised me to document everything. She'll be served soon, and I expect she'll react strongly, but I've lost count of the number of times she's done this. I've managed to get in touch with a few acquaintances who are closer to Alice's circle than mine. They told me that Alice has been calling around looking for a place to confront people. It seems no one's willing to meet her, so called friends have turned their backs on her because they feel it's her fault that cheating could expose them. They're all in trouble with their partners or facing breakups thanks to the evidence I gave them, plus they realized they weren't as close as they thought. I have to admit that I felt a little satisfaction hearing this. It's like karma has served up a cold dish, and Alice is getting a taste of her own medicine. I also find it amusing that she hasn't tried involving the cops. Alice is unaware of the eviction process. As I have listed her as the primary address for my house, I am unable to evict her. However, I am grateful for this, as I would not have been able to tolerate having her stay for at least 6 more months. In the meantime, I have continued with my usual pranks. I signed Alice and her colleagues up for a flood of spam emails. Their inboxes are probably overflowing by now. To top it off, I played a little trick by putting Alice's number on those bogus celebrity fan sites. I put it in as a contact number for a celebrity. People fall for that nonsense. So I bet her phone is ringing off the hook, but it's worth it to keep her distracted. Things have been pretty quiet lately, So the peace and quiet are a welcome change. Alice's absence is like a breath of fresh air. I'm finally able to think clearly and plan my next steps. This whole thing has been a lesson in resilience and self-respect. I appreciate your patience and support throughout this challenging period. I apologize for the lack of updates, but I've been occupied with the corporal case and, as you can imagine, it's been a roller coaster. However, I'm pleased to share that we achieved a significant victory. Alice secured a portion of the funds. I got some money up front, but it's not much compared to what I kept. Let me explain. After Alice was served, we went through the court process. Thanks to my solid evidence and a great lawyer, things went my way quickly. Alice got a small amount of money up front, but it won't make a difference. I kept my house and other assets, and the court ruled that Alice had to pay. Regarding the smashed windshield, I initially said I wouldn't press her for it, but since she got some early cash, I brought it up. She reluctantly had to pay, as she was visibly upset about it. As for Alice's living situation after the shoal, she's basically homeless. She's either crashing on couches or seeking refuge in shelters. After the court drama, she was really angry with me and blamed me for everything. Then, in a strange way, she asked me to take her back. One minute she was shouting at me, the next she wanted to make up. I stopped her right away and told her it was over. I'm focusing on myself now and working on my own development. I didn't plan on dating anytime soon, given the drama I've been through. From here on out, it's all about personal growth. A big thank you to everyone who supported me through this wild ride. This Reddit post exceeded my expectations. I'm grateful for the amazing support. Thank you all so much. Hi pals, I'm back with another update. Despite saying my last one would be the final chapter, it's heartwarming to know that many of you are still interested in what's going on in my life. So here's a little glimpse. Since I cut Alice and her toxic circle out of my life, things have been significantly better. I've had no more mocking and no more negativity about my hobbies or interests. I took the opportunity to deep clean the house, and let me tell you, maintaining cleanliness without Alice around to create chaos has been a breeze. I actually got a promotion, which has been a rewarding validation of my hard work and dedication. As for dating, well, that's still on hold. It might be a while before I dip my toes back into that scene, but I'm okay with that. I've found that taking care of myself and making myself a priority has been really important recently. I'm not totally sure where Alice is at the moment, but the last I heard she was still struggling with homelessness, stuck in a cycle of job hopping and facing employment challenges due to her qualifications and work history. Despite everything, I'm looking forward to a positive future. Thanks so much for all your support and interest in my life. I'm hoping for brighter days ahead for all of us.